Let's give it up for our next keynote speaker.
Yes, that's the spirit. All right, so that's my talk today. Let's get moving. I'll start with this quote. "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." This quote is very timely for us right now as we stand at the cusp of so many technological transformations and shifts. So for my talk today, I want to go through 3 different themes. I'm going to do the first theme is around the evolution of product design. Why we're going to do that and look back is just to see how far we've come, and as designers, how adaptable and resilient we are. And that's going to be important for the next decade. The second part of my presentation is around key tech trends, so we can ground ourselves in all the disruptive change that we can already see. And the third part of my presentation is really the future of design in India's tech scene as well as globally, and what we need to do as designers to evolve our skills. All right, let's take a trip down memory lane. And I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly. So I call this era the early 2000s, the lipstick on the pig era. How many of you were part of this era? I certainly was, when design was an afterthought. And that's because somebody else did all the thinking for you, and they would come to you and say, pretty it up. It was an afterthought that was purely focused on aesthetics. Designers were very focused on the meticulous craft of design, but they were working mostly divorced from the business context within which their design lived. Much of design was outsourced. If you were a good designer, you work at an agency because that's where all the fun, good work was. That's where all the challenging work was. That's where you built your portfolio. In-house design was considered second class. I'm missing a slide, a very important slide. Okay. Well, we can actually talk about this. The designer's skills at this point in the early 2000s really focused on craft skills. We're talking about typography, color, print layout, branding, marketing, and all of these skills really shined in graphic design, advertising, and early web design. Then came the iPhone. It was a pretty spectacular disruption, in a good way, I want to say, for all product functions. iPhone disrupted so many trends and brought new ones on board. iPhone was purely differentiated by the experience. Now, there was the Palm Pilot, there was BlackBerry, but iPhone was the winner of all, and it was purely differentiated by the experience. The end-to-end experience, Apple actually set the new bar for it, right from unboxing, the hardware, the software. The bar for delight was very high. And the App Store revolutionized how we all accessed consumer products. The adoption of human interface guidelines became mainstream. We knew that we had to abide by those if we wanted to ship into the App Store. So iPhone democratized information, and look at all of these amazing apps. This all came from that decade. That decade of the 2010s was transformative for product and by extension for design. All these multi-billion-dollar companies came up with their apps, and designers had a fantastic role to play and shape these experiences. But a lot of companies also were asleep at the wheel, and they got left behind. These, by the way, I only pulled 4 examples for you, and these are 4 very, very large global companies. Let's take Kodak, for instance. Kodak was a giant in the photography and printed photograph market, but you had these young upstarts completely take out these big global brands. You had the embedded camera in the iPhone and Instagram and Snap, all of that come in and disrupt Kodak altogether. The lesson here, folks, is disrupt yourself or be disrupted. All right, I should also mention the 2010s was the decade where we saw the rise of design thinking. It went mainstream. Now, design thinking, back then, for those of you who are not familiar, is an inclusive process where design is broader than the craft of the design, like where we as designers do a deep craft. This process included other functions like product managers and engineers and researchers to collectively frame the problem together and design a solution together. So I think of it as capital D. So this is where design went from small d, craft-based, to capital D, which was inclusive of other functions. So this notion of design broadened. I also got to be part of this. I worked at SAP for seven something years, and I got to be part of this shaping the next generation of enterprise software using design thinking. And the App House actually started out as an experiment. I was a founding member of this, and as an experiment, we wanted to see if a Fortune 500 company like SAP could actually create software in a different way. And it was a wild success, and it scaled out to the entire company, and even today, SAP has App House, and it's a very core part of the company. Now, I'm gonna show you something super dated. When I was at the App House, we created the Fiori experience layer, and of course, like, don't judge, this was done about 12 years ago, but it completely, what I wish I could show you was the before of this, which was ugly, clunky, everything in the kitchen sink enterprise software, and you had something that was a little bit cleaner, but we also had fun. We did some other products. We even brought big data into sports, where we combined data with athlete training, and that actually impacted their performance on the field. And this is American football and tennis. Who here loves soccer? We also got to work with the Deutsche Fußballbund, which is the German national soccer team, and they won the World Cup that year. So it's fun times, especially for my designers who got to work with the team. So SAP wasn't the only company that was jumping on this trend and using design to unlock a lot of value for their customers. There was IBM, Cisco, Google. All of these companies were rethinking enterprise software. And that's great, because enterprise software, we all know, for those of us who work in enterprise software, is a second-class citizen when compared to consumer software. So I was pretty happy with this trend. The 2010s was also a decade that brought a lot of design innovation. Talk about responsive design and mobile-first design. Design systems that enabled us to scale our experience across multiple touch points very easily and consistently. And we also brought in the minimalist flat design. I was very happy to say goodbye to the skeuomorphic trend. And wearable technology made its entry into the scene, and we got to make them part of our daily lives. And voice UI also entered the scene, enabling us to use natural language commands and hands-free interaction. So when it comes to innovation, oftentimes we talk about it in terms of technology and engineering. We take all the design innovations for granted. So the reason I actually pulled those slides together is I want us to appreciate, as designers, we have been either the driver or the co-driver for all of those innovations that we brought in. So that, I think, is pretty fantastic. So if you compare this slide to the slide that I showed you earlier, you can see how our skills broadened out. We added so many other capabilities in this decade. And I mean, I don't know how many of us actually step back and appreciate it, but we went from a tiny craft base to a lot more capable as a discipline. Fast forward now. I work at Atlassian. I've worked in tech for 2.5 decades. And I think like design is here to stay. It is a core competency in product development. Today, it sounds crazy to ship any apps, any software products without design being embedded. But that's only now that I feel like this is a very well understood way of working. And engineering, product management, and design triad, what we call the EPD triad, is the industry standard because we know it works. We have proof it works. And this last one is the litmus test for me. Design literacy amongst other functions have grown significantly. This is PM, engineering, data science, research. All of these other functions understand the value that we bring to the table, how we work, how we approach product, etc. Needless to say, product design is here to stay. I love this quote. The future depends on what you do today. We've had a lot of progress, and using my wave metaphor here, you don't want to turn your back to the ocean because there are more waves coming. And so I'll talk about a set of waves, really, as key trends that we should be aware of and prepared. But before I go into the trends themselves, a couple of different disclaimers. It's not an exhaustive list. I'm only touching upon a few trends, and they're actually pretty obvious things. But what I offer here today for you all is how do we position ourselves as designers to ride those waves so they take us far and fast, especially in a time of change. I also want to have say one more disclaimer. I did not come up with these trends. I'm not in the business of doing that. There are several people, very smart people, that look around the corner and come up with trends. What I did was ingest a lot of information to bring this to you all today. Okay, so this is the first trend. The data tsunami in the age of affordable quantum computing. This is not a wave, it's a tsunami. We are going to be generating data in an unprecedented way. I mean, everything every single one of us touch and interact with, whether it's your personal life or your professional life, whether you're doing it alone or with other people, and whether it's a consumer app or any kind of app that you are dealing with, everything that we touch and interact with, that actually goes for hardware products too. Your fridge, your car, your watch, everything is going to be generating data. So the challenge for us as designers is, what is our role? When there's so much data, we as designers, and this expectation is here already today, by the way, the expectation is that we have a little bit more analytical thinking and bring that to the table. So we as designers need to know what questions to ask of these vast amounts of data. Otherwise, you're just going to sink in the vortex. So when I talk about designers needing to be analytical, I'm not suggesting that we become data scientists. That's not our jam. But what we do need to do is know what questions to ask of that data, how to combine the quantitative data with qualitative insights, and make sure to bring those things together to inform our design intuition, so the design choices that we make feel like they are data informed and not blindly data driven. And this is a very important nuance. The second wave, this is the AI effect. You've already heard quite a bit today, and I'm sure the earlier days as well. This is one that we cannot ignore. I'm going to play a quick clip. This is Sundar Pichai from I/O. Oh, can we get the volume?
How many times we have mentioned AI today? And since the big theme today has been letting Google do the work for you, we went ahead and counted so that you don't have to. That might be a record in how many times someone has said AI.
Anyway, that I thought was pretty funny. For those of you who saw Google I/O, his keynote last year in 2023, he said AI so many times. There were the funniest of memes going around. If you haven't seen those memes, definitely do. Then you will go back and appreciate that joke that he kind of doesn't take himself too seriously. So anyway, the point being, data and AI is 1-2 punch. You can see Google and practically every company in the world is paying attention to this. This big data being the input and AI being the powerful vehicle to deliver these amazing experiences to us, this is it's super transformative. I want to share a few examples of how people are using AI today. And AI today is so in early stages, it's in its infancy, and even today you can create mind-blowing experiences. So I want to share a few. And this, by the way, was done by a creator, a single creator, using AI entirely. Pretty cool, right? That's one. And here, I'll show you another one. This is Harry Potter rendered in Wes Anderson style visuals.
In the quietest nook of the perfectly ordinary privet drive, something extraordinary is about to happen. A young boy named Harry Potter receives a letter that will change everything.
So,
guided by a gentle giant.
I won't play the full thing, but you get the idea. AI is enabling incredible experiences even in its early stage of where it is as a technology. But let's switch gears and talk about tools. This is Adobe and Adobe Sensei. These kinds of tools, by the way, we would not have been able to imagine that they are there for us even 5 years ago. Pretty incredible stuff in terms of enabling even more creativity for designers. So I love that. But I'm going to actually switch gears and talk, actually no, let's talk about this one, which is ChatGPT and Pi. These are really cool from an interface standpoint. Pi also has a voice interface, and there's some really, really cool things that are happening in this space with conversational AI and the experiences. But of all the AI tools, I use a lot of them. I love kind of tinkering around. This one is my most favorite. It's called Perplexity. It has got the best reasoning that I have seen. Better than ChatGPT, better than any other AI tool, and I use it repeatedly, every single day, many times a day. I would highly recommend you all check it out. And no, I am not sponsored by Perplexity to say this. And then I want to touch upon a couple of AI tools that I use at work every day. And here you have, I work for Atlassian, and Atlassian bakes in AI into all of our tools. And I love some of them, and they're really, really useful. They're a huge productivity boost. Summarize is great, because I actually have to read a lot of documents in my daily work, and the Summarize button, huge time saver. Love asking questions and chatting with AI to get deeper into the doc or whatever that you need to do. I love the, acronym helper, because I hate acronyms with a passion. So yeah, the list goes on. Also, another one that I cannot live without is Loom, and Loom has AI as well. This is also an Atlassian tool. It's just changed the way I approach meetings, and I record Looms every week. And Loom basically gives me auto chapters, markers, transcribes, cleans up my video where if I say ahs and ums like I'm doing now, it'll clean this up. So yeah, and it'll also make tasks for the people that are viewing the video. So I share all of this because this is a really important trend, and it's crazy how these tools, by the way, I've only been using them for a few months, and they have become part of my daily workflow. And I'm not alone. AI will enable every one of us to create products cheaper, faster, and it's going to level the playing field. And you all already know it, which means you're going to have engineers and product designers and people who actually don't have any of that knowledge or background be able to create AI applications very, very easily. So you're going to see a proliferation of a lot of these tools, and the ones that truly do pull away and become successful are the ones that are going to be differentiated by the experience, by the product value, by the brand, by the storytelling, just like the iPhone. And this is where designers play a really important role in shaping those experiences. I love this quote where Toby Walsh talks. He's a scientist and he works for the University of New South Wales in Sydney, and he thinks his ask is for us to think of AI as augmented intelligence, where it's augmenting human intelligence, and I love that provocation. So my suggestion here today, I think most of the crowd here, the audience here, already uses a lot of AI tools. So continue doing that, play around with a lot of tools. It's fun. There's a tool for everything. But make sure it's part of your daily workflow. So that's one. Learn a little bit more about AI, which is go deeper, learn a little bit more about the technology and how it's evolving. And the last one is really important for us to prepare ourselves for the future, which is leverage what you learn. Use what you learn to create AI-driven experiences. So use tools, learn more, and create are my prompts to you today. And the third trend builds on the previous two trends, which is the interconnectedness of products. And what you're going to see in particular is an explosion in AI assistants. You can see this quote by Jan LeCun. He is the chief scientist at Meta. He thinks that AI assistant of some kind is going to be there in the near future that we're all going to be interacting with. And similarly, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA shares the same kind of sentiment. What we're seeing in the market right now, and these are people who are experts in the field, there's a general consensus and agreement that AI assistants will be exploding in the market, and every single one of us will be using it. It's not without challenges. AI will, from time to time, hallucinate. We'll also have to navigate challenges like privacy and data security concerns, as well as ethical considerations around AI decision-making, over-reliance on AI and what that does to human cognition and how we interact with society in the long run. So these are all things that we have to navigate as a society, but make no mistake, this is a trend that's not going to go away. Just look at those numbers. In the next 10 years, 167 billion, that's the market for the AI assistants, and that's growing at a percentage of almost 29% in that same time period. And by 2025, an estimated 50% of knowledge workers, that's all of us, and that's not even a year away, that we will be using AI assistants on a regular basis. So let's not ignore that trend. I'm going to blow through these other trends. As I mentioned, this presentation is not exhaustive, but these are some trends that I find interesting. The metaverse, obviously, super immersive. The universal digital currencies. 3D bioprinting and smart pills that are precision medicine, personalized medicine delivered to you. Internet of medical things. This is something that I'm super passionate about in my, outside of work, which is treating, a shift from treating illness to actually enabling wellness. And there's smart city solutions and green technology integration. And the reason I wanted to even touch upon these trends is, today there is a big narrative, and it's not untrue, with the tech layoffs and AI replacing people. There's a general fear and discomfort of what this means for all of us. And the reason I touched upon all these trends is you can see that the runway is bigger and broader. There is more work here for us as creative professionals, not less. And so there's many, many ways that we as designers can catch these waves and ride them. This, last but not least, this one is my most favorite trend. This is how designers are redefining entrepreneurship. So I want to show you the designpreneurs of the last decade. Check out those logos. These companies are multi-billion-dollar companies. started by people with design background or designers. So this is proof that designers can run some of the most successful tech companies in the world. And as I was looking at all of these companies, I saw one very interesting trait amongst all these founders. These founders had design, either depth or background, but what they did was they found ways to build experiences outside of design. Let me show you an example. Here's Dylan Field. He's the founder and CEO of Figma. Look at him. He was a researcher, he was a product designer, he did engineering, he did marketing, he did data analytics, he did development. And they were all early career jobs. What he was doing was collecting experiences and collecting knowledge. And this, I think, is really important because if anyone here wants to jump on this design founder trend, this is the way to do it. So my provocation here is go outside of your design skills and acquire other broader skills, whether it be analytical skills or business acumen. The combination of these skills is very potent. If we want more designpreneurs in the world, then we need to actually evolve how education currently happens. And if you look at whether it's NIDs, maybe they need to add more tech, analytical, and business acumen courses as part of their design education, or the reverse. Maybe it's the IITs and the IIMs that need to actually add more design and creative courses. Either way, what I'm suggesting is this interdisciplinary curriculum is a very important part of a designer's education, and I hope our educational institutions will evolve. We also want to make sure that there's practical entrepreneurial startup incubator type experiences that are baked into design programs. So it's natural as you're doing your college education, you can go into that startup ecosystem. We have already talked about the data literacy training and also the leadership, the organization leadership and basic sort of business acumen, business 101, how do you run that? I think these are really, really important kind of foundational educational pieces that I would like to see. And last but not least, designers always need to keep their finger on the pulse in terms of emerging trends. But while I call out these things, let's not wait for our educational institutions to catch up. There's so much self-serve material out there. Go ahead and lean into it. And also, like Dylan, we can all get practical on-the-job experience. So, my provocation here to all of you today, let us see more design founder startups from India. No one can talk about the startup ecosystem without talking about India, because India now ranks as the third largest startup ecosystem globally. This is freaking amazing. I mean, look at 2 decades ago, I think India was primarily an outsourcing-focused industry, and there's so much evolution, and now it's a thriving ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship. You have your own billion-dollar companies. And WhatsApp basically like revolutionized how people communicate and people in businesses communicate and how commerce happens. And I saw this from the front lines because I was part of the team at Meta creating these experiences for all of us to interact with where people in businesses are transacting. And I did that for WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, Facebook, etc. And India has so many unique challenges, like low bandwidth and diverse languages, that gives rise to very unique innovations and specific to India, which I think is very exciting. And the surge of VC and private equity investment is great. So I'm going to blow through some of this, but a couple of stats that I want to call out. India has 881 million internet subscribers. And just to put it in scale, that is 2.5 times the population, the entire population of the United States. So we're talking some pretty big numbers. And in the Global Innovation Index, India was 81st just 8 years ago. Today, 40th. Imagine where India will be 10 years from now. I think top 10, 15 is probably where India is going to be. So tech will continue to be a huge key driver of economic growth. So while we're talking about AI and all of that good stuff, I felt compelled to mention this. Look, ChatGPT and Silicon Valley will not solve for all of India's problems. So I actually think that India will be a huge player in the AI space, given your diverse languages here. We need India to come up with its own LLM and AI models. So I think India can and will solve challenges that capitalize on the opportunities that are uniquely Indian. And you won't stop there. These solutions will scale globally. So we're all designers gathered here. And what is our opportunity in front of all of us when it comes to India and design? Well, you have the opportunity to solve for the next billion, that's billion with a B, next billion users. There are not very many countries in the world that can claim that. You have the ability to create unique and frugal innovations that can be scaled globally. We all saw the phenomenon of Chandrayaan-3. I mean, India, but this was pretty incredible to pull off for a fraction of the cost, the moon landing for a fraction of the cost that NASA invested. So I know that that same spirit applies to tech. And you have the ability to appeal to a young audience that's tech savvy and early adopter. So lots of opportunities, including bridging the digital divide and creating inclusive designs. So I'll leave you with, these are my last couple of slides. AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. This is something that we should all really kind of internalize. Look, as long as humankind has been around, jobs were there and they went extinct. That happens with any technological innovation, but the trick here is for us to figure out which jobs are going to go extinct and how do we prepare ourselves proactively. I've talked a lot about how far we've come as designers, all the trends that we should be aware of, how we evolve our skills, and also the opportunity for all of you here in India. Look, there is unprecedented opportunities in front of us for the designers that are willing to learn, evolve, and push boundaries. And especially for Indian designers here, you have the opportunity to really kind of create and shape such unique experiences that are not going to happen anywhere in the world. And your solutions will resonate locally, but also scale globally. The future is being designed now, and it's our responsibility collectively to make sure that it's crafted with vision, empathy, and creativity. Thank you.